from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, I had somebody asking me some questions in regards to the All-American canner. This is my small one that I picked up at a garage sale for $10 several years ago, and I love having the small size. I got the second to the largest size. I didn't want to bring that in here because I just didn't feel like dealing with it when the small one is handier and easier to pick up and put on here. So anyway, the small one is nice if I'm just wanting to do small batches rather than big massive batches. And anyway, they were talking about getting the lid level, and I wanted to go through a few tips on that, plus a few other things. If you already have an All-American canner, if you're new to it, or you're thinking about getting one, some things that you should know. So one thing about the All-American canner is that it does not have the rubber seal like most of your other canners will have. However, it's good to know that, I don't always think about this, that when you go to use it, you obviously want to make sure there's nothing stuck along the rim here or along the rim here, and make sure it's nice and clean. And then also what I do is I'll take a little bit of Vaseline. You could use coconut oil for this, and I just carefully rub it all around, just a very thin coating all around this, where the lid here meets the inside of the pot, and that's where it's going to get its seal. And then I'll go ahead and put a little across the top here. And if you feel you need to, you can always put a little around the edge of this as well. Not entirely necessary, but it's going to be that outside edge, because this is the part that's going to make contact with the inside of that. And so, and I know my pot doesn't look very beautiful. It is clean. It's just that I do all my canning outside on a propane burner. That's where I do it all, so it tends to blacken the bottom. And so anyway, the lady was concerned because she didn't think she was getting a good enough seal on her canner. So one of the things you want to look for is this little, there's going to be an arrow or just a little indentation right here. And what you want to do is you'll also find an arrow on the lid itself, and you're going to line that arrow up with that indentation. Okay. And then at that point, you turn it. Now, what the lady, I believe, she was thinking that the whole lid had to be completely touching the rim of the pot here. What you have to remember is that the lid goes down inside the pot like this. So your seal is here, not here. You don't have to worry about it touching the top of the pot here. This is where the seal is. So the important thing is just making sure it's level all the way around. And she was talking about how she had it perfectly flat on one side, but not on the other. Well, it's because the lid it's just simply not level. And another thing I'll point out is that there'll be, I think there's depending on the size of the pot, you may have a few of these little clamps or hooks here. They slip under these edges. This is why you got to have the lid married up right, because there's specific places those little things need to hook under. So there's that. But if let me start with this side. Typically when you go to put your lid on, you want to take the opposing sides and tighten them down evenly. So this one here, I want you to see, if you can see, on this side here, you see that gap? But on the opposite side, there's no gap because it's completely down. So this is what I think she's talking about, and what I was trying to explain to her. If you're wanting to get it level, you need to loosen up the side where it's all the way down so that you can then tighten the other side. I know she was talking about how I had it all tightened down. Well, yeah, you can have it all tightened down and it's still going to be lopsided. You got to start with the side where it's all the way down. This is still farther down than this one, and then that way then you'll find the other side will immediately get looser. Then you tighten it down evenly. Then you'll do the same thing with the opposing sides here. You got to check. This usually, once you do the first set, it's going to stay pretty level at that point. And then again, opposing sides. and then check, and then tighten it down. And so that, it's kind of hard to explain that when you're trying to type it out. So I thought I'd shoot a quick video demonstrating that. So I hope that makes sense. So yes, if one side is higher than the other, the side that is lower down, that's the side that has to be loosened up so that you can tighten the other side down properly. So I think what she was doing was just like, well, it's all tight. Well, yeah, because you tightened it down, but you tightened it down crooked. So the only way to get it to move is to loosen the side that's down all the way so that you can then properly level it out. And then as far as using these, you have your water level in there, which is 1 inch to 2 inches, depending on how big your pot is, how long you're going to be running it. I usually try to go at least 1.5 inches to 2 inches, no matter what I'm doing. You let it come up to temperature. It's going to start venting out the vent pipe. If you have the more modern version, that has the weighted version, which I prefer. And this one actually wasn't. I actually contacted the company and we switched out the petcock for the vent and the weight so that I could have it the same. I like having the weighted one because you can listen to it and keep track of it that way, though I always still come out and go out there and check my gauge. So once it starts venting, you time it for 7 minutes. Most canners will say 10 minutes. For the All-American, it usually says 7. I've never seen it say anything other than 7 for the All-American. I don't know why the time is different, but as long as the whole idea is to vent it, you're trying to get all that air in there so that it can start easily building up pressure. And then according to where you are, your elevation, you're going to choose the 10, the 5, or the 15. For our elevation, it's 10, and so that's the hole that I'm going to drop it in on there. And then it's going to come up to pressure, which is going to be right about here, 10 pounds, because that's what we're doing. And once it gets there, this thing's going to start rocking. And so then you adjust your heat so that this thing isn't constantly doing that, because then you're just wasting energy. And you got to make sure too, if it keeps doing that, it may still not be letting out enough pressure fast enough to keep it from getting over pressurized. But this is one of the safety features of the All-American, is it does have an overpressure plug that will shoot out if that ever happens. I've never had that happen. But at any rate, I'll just keep adjusting the heat, because on our propane thing out there, it has an adjustment. You can just keep turning it down until you get to where it's just within a minute, it should do that little rocking thing 2 or 3 times within a minute. And then that way, you're not wasting so much energy or so much propane, and it's less likely to get over pressure. But you always want to keep your ear open. That's why I always have my door open when I'm canning and I'm doing stuff in here, so that I can always be listening for that. And if I ever hear it sound like it's taking too long to start doing that, or it starts doing it too much, then I'll go turn it down, turn it up accordingly in just little small increments. Now, another thing that Patrick did for me was he made this aluminum shroud that is aluminum or tin, I keep forgetting. But anyway, it's just a real thin piece of metal that he took and then riveted it together. And then I slipped that down over my canner. And what that does when you're using a propane burner like mine, which was an old turkey fryer burner, that will help hold the heat in more, meaning that I use even less propane when I do that. I have to just barely have the burner on at all when I have that shroud around there. So I'm making more economical use of the propane by having that little shroud around there. And so that's been very, very helpful. Just a little tip if you're ever thinking about doing that, and doing that on propane. So, and then some people ask if you have a glass stove. They've read, you shouldn't, the people say don't do it on glass. I've seen people do it on glass. It's just a matter of being careful. And I personally wouldn't feel comfortable using my big canner on my glass stove, but I wouldn't have a problem using this one on here. I still just prefer to do it all outside. That's just me. So anyway, there's my tips on the All-American canner. I hope that helped answer a couple of questions. Any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, please put them in comments down below. And Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.